at lunch.
You are looking live.
Live at lunch. Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
What the hell's going on out here?
Now, here's Jimmy Ott and Charles Hannegriff.
For some reason or another, you sound a little taller on radio.
Is it live? Is it live? Is it live?
From the DraftKings Sportsbook at the Queen Casino, downtown Baton Rouge. Welcome into the Monday edition of Live at Lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Charles Hannegriff along with Jimmy Ott, Max Gotro here with you. Jordan Kitchens back in the studio. Troy Macker with us here in about 30 minutes as the rain comes down here in Baton Rouge. Not a real good-looking morning, but we're happy to be here. Jimmy, good morning.
What's up, Charles?
Max, good morning. Pretty big weekend. If you couldn't find something to watch and be enthralled with, you weren't looking. The Final Four in men's is set. The chalkiest NCAA tournament that I've ever seen continues after a first weekend where there were very few upsets. The Elite Eight was 3-1 versus 2s and a 1 versus 3, and all four number one seeds go to the Final Four for the only the second time, and first since 2008. Two of the games were absolute blowouts in the Elite Eight. One of them, I thought Auburn controlled most of the way. Final score was probably a little bit closer than what the actual game was, and one thriller that saw a furious rally by Florida to win it, being down 9 with just under 3 minutes to go, and they rallied to win that one. The LSU women, they fall to UCLA in the Elite Eight. Half of the women's Final Four is set. LSU baseball sweeps over the weekend.
And Wes Reynolds and our consensus pick, Minwoo Lee at 35-1 cashes.
Wins yesterday, so a full buffet of sports.
It's kind of segging into the summer sports, where we start to look at, sort of the, do you get out of March Madness, and this is where we transition to a bunch of other things. And, in Major League Baseball, the Yankees, are those Marucci bats?
I was wondering if they were the -5s. the old nuclear bats, the way they were swinging
with
them
the torpedo bats.
Yeah, the Yankees setting some records this weekend.
But controversy?
I don't know.
No, okay. Right.
Not yet, but
Okay.
it's been 4 days, so let's.
Of course, it's premature, but
yeah, let's see. You said at the beginning of the tournament, I saw people coming up to you before we were doing the shows down on the coast and said, what's your bracket look like? Your bracket saying. My bracket's the most boring bracket ever. I got all of the chalks, and
I tried to squeeze one in there in Tennessee.
Who was a 2 seed? So it wasn't like it's a monumental upset. And right. do we give the committee any credit for getting this right? I mean, we're quick to condemn them.
Well, Charlie, who didn't have those as the 4 seeds, the 4 number ones?
Nobody. There was no controversy over the number 1 seed. I'm sort of making a joke. After. Well, on Selection Sunday, there's always some outrage.
The committee, Auburn as a 1 seed should have a big home court advantage in Atlanta. Duke as a number 1 seed should have a home court advantage, but Houston should not have to play in Indianapolis. Auburn should not have to play in the state of Kentucky if against a lower seed. So those things are inexcusable. So
the scheduling.
It's just lazy.
But the seeding.
I get it. But this is. I don't want to pick all number 1s.
No, we're used to tournaments that have a little bit of intrigue. But
why is Alabama not here? They don't play defense, right?
Right.
Okay. Well, you can't start playing defense in them. Now, I will tell you this: Duke on Saturday was way better defensively than Duke on Thursday. That's for damn sure.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, I'm not a Duke I'm a Duke hater. They just shove them down your throat. It is what it is. They're the number 1. I like how the times are set for a Final Four. Well, we don't know the result of this one yet, but Duke is primetime.
Yeah.
We get it. One thing they're consistent on there, that in the home whites for the higher seeds. It should. I don't have to fight through the first 5 minutes watching the game, see who's who. But anyway, This John Shire can coach, Charlie. He can coach, and I don't give. He's very few programs can lure in a guy like Cooper Flagg. To get that. The guy that got a commitment, he's got that brand. Nobody has branding, so he's got some advantages, a lot of advantages that nobody else has, okay? But how about roster building to start off with? His 6'6" shooter from Sydney, Australia, I mean, most teams would have given up on him. He went 0 for 9 against NC State in the regional final last year when they got beat by NC State. Shire should take a lot of blame for getting beat by NC State the way they did in that one. But you know what? He didn't put it. They didn't part ways. He worked in his game from a low to mid 30% 3-point shooter. He's over 40%, and he's shooting 68% for the tournament. I mean, 25-37, talking about Tyrese Proctor. And then, of course, Charlie, you want to go to the transfer portal, and John Calipari never did it forever, to go get a couple of transfers, seasoned guys to supplement his star freshman, right? Well, if you're going to go to the transfer portal, you got to go to the biggest hotbed. And that's my last starter, my fifth starter. I know that I need a God's muscle because we've been pushed around a little bit, so I'm going to go to Tulane, the hotbed of college basketball, and bring in my fifth starter, and, Sion James. I mean, they were aware of Sears, where everybody in the court knew where he was at all times. They had a couple of clean looks, but most of those looks were really tough. And they played a really good defense against the number one scoring team in the country.
Not only the number one scoring team in the country.
Some of the shots Bama hit were tough shots.
They were.
Man. God.
I was surprised. I don't know if you knew this stat. They gave this stat. I forgot what point in the game that Alabama had more points in the paint than anybody else in the tournament. That surprised me. I didn't realize that stat. And there were none to be had with Malach. I keep butchering his name. But that cat kept everybody out of the paint. He's 7'2". He's from, the other hotbed of recruiting, South Sudan. Yeah. He controlled everything. The reason that a lot of those shots were tough is because most of them were not from very close. And even, even the coach said it after the game. Hey, man, we just were not – he was controlling what we did. We knew we couldn't get in there and get shots off in the paint. So when you make everything a long-range shot – and look, Alabama couldn't possibly duplicate what they shot in the regional semifinal. But more, it was way more pronounced than that.
And nobody can possibly duplicate BYU's pitiful defensive performance.
Right.
They're just bad. They and that's the thing with Bama. Bama's got rim protectors. They're just not very good. And the other thing is, Sears is not as quick as a freshman. The other two guards, it was more their game to try and create, because they were getting dribble penetration. But of course, when you got that erase, a few times I would have gone Sears Nelson pick and roll. You got a few dunks, on that. I thought Nelson played his ass off. But that's a team that had that could have. They were minus a Herb Jones. They were minus maybe a Sion Jones. They every a little offensive heavy on their on their roster, and so. But I'll tell you what, the biggest Tennessee is the bully of the SEC. They bang. They've done this. It's not new. But they got bullied yesterday.
Big time.
I mean,
big time.
I was surprised.
That looked like ones versus the twos. And Tennessee is a good basketball team, and Houston absolutely just smashed them.
I mean, big brothered them, dude.
Yes.
I mean,
it looked like men. It looked like the varsity against the junior varsity. It looked like men playing against kids. It really did.
And this is the best league, and I've seen Tennessee do that to so many teams in this league.
Yeah,
that was just surprising.
Houston and Duke. I don't want anybody sitting next to me. I don't want to talk to nobody. I just want to watch that game.
How are you going to beat Duke?
Well, if you go out and you play that bullying defense that Houston played yesterday, they got a chance.
Now, how'd you think the Tennessee-Houston game was officiated?
It was a physical game. I thought they let a lot go. Okay.
No, we're on the same page.
Yeah.
Okay. They get that whistle against Duke, they'll be fine.
Yeah.
What's the chances of them getting that whistle
Not
against
good.
Duke?
Not good.
Yes.
Not good.
I mean, we're on the same page. I mean, but the tournament mostly has been let them play. Don't you think?
And yes,
and that's a good thing.
I am for that, man.
Yes.
The last thing I want to see is somebody heavy on the whistle. In the women's game, Betts goes out with 2 fouls at the end of the first quarter.
Wow.
Even though it benefited LSU, I don't want the stars on the bench. Okay, I want to see the stars play. So I am fine with them swallowing the whistle in a lot of these cases.
With so much on the tournament, this single elimination, for them not to have, even if you just do it for the tournament, not to have a 6th foul. You're putting way too much in the hands of the officials.
Yeah.
And but man, I couldn't believe how rough they were letting them play Tennessee Houston.
They were.
At least Houston was playing rough. I mean, then they called a foul. I don't know about that. I'm like, geez, they've been beating the crap out of each other.
It
man.
reminded me
and
of one of
Houston
those-
was getting the best of them.
It reminded me of one of those games that they play on an outdoor court, with call your own fouls.
Oh.
Where it's like,
Yes.
you better be bleeding.
Yeah, you're really not calling that.
No,
are
no
you?
blood,
Yes.
no foul.
Yeah.
That's what it looked like. Auburn survives a scare when Janai Broome went to the locker room in the second half, but he turned out to be okay. And Auburn, I thought, was in control of that game most of the way. The final looks closer, especially for those of us that had Michigan State in 5.5. But I didn't think the game was as close
What's
as
the
that
closest
score.
Michigan State got in the second half? 5?
I think the 6. Did they ever get it to 5?
I think they got it to 5 at one point.
And I was watching
It was
close
very
because I had
quickly.
them. And then we're going to talk about it in the second segment because it merits a segment on its own, which is the Florida Texas Tech game, which was by far the most exciting and competitive of the final 8 games.
Yeah, well, over
Elite Eight.
here at the Queen Casino, the DraftKings Sportsbook, my home base, man, my home away from. Here's the Charlie. I could talk about it. I can, whatever. But when your GPS on your vehicle, my Go Chevrolet vehicle,
Yeah.
okay, when it comes up and and it's like on Saturday, and it pops up office. Is that an endorsement? Huh?
Hey.
I love it. Now, I was under the weather this past weekend. I couldn't come, but man, this is my spot, man. I log as
When you get the self-driving vehicle, it'll just drive right
I
here.
log as many hours as some people do at their office over here at the Queen Casino, because you know what? It's operated so great, man. Cliff, Tommy, Scotty, all the Andres, they all do a great job over here at the Queen Casino. You never have to worry about. But if one particular game slips on, hey, wait, can you fit a golf on this? Hey, we got Florida Derby and Arkansas Derby today. Can we get the horse race? But they will work with you. Now they're not going to, they get it up to, I think it's 16 screens on this main wall. They got the ticker underneath. They got TVs at the bar as well, the video poker bar, which where we're doing a show right now with view of all the screens. And that's what it's all about. I mean, watching the game, you watch the game at home, but you want to see all the games, Major League Baseball, NBA, college basketball, the women, the golf, you name it, they're going to put it on over here for you. And I have no complaints. Charlie, when have I been completely satisfied when it comes to the TVs, huh?
Very, very. It's a rare occasion. It's a rare occasion.
Well, come over to the Queen. You'll see why.
We'll take a break. Come back live at lunch from the Queen, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny from the Queen Casino on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
We can always get the show on demand. LouisianaSports.net, 104.5 ESPN.com. Troy Macker with us here at the bottom of the hour. All right, so we had 3 games that I would say that one team was in control, two for sure, really a third. But the one game that wasn't was Florida and Texas Tech. Texas Tech with a 9-point lead with just under 3 minutes to go, and looked all the world like they would be spoiling the party for the Gators. But in those last 3 minutes, Florida put on a furious rally and ended up winning the game by 5. Jimmy, I heard you and Max having a pretty spirited conversation about some of the things that happened in the last 3 minutes. So I'll let you kind of pick it up from where you guys were.
They hit a buck. First of all, Texas Tech came out. Remember how poorly they shot for most of the game against Arkansas. They came out and hit 6 of their first 7 3-pointers, and still Florida's right there.
Yeah.
So you felt like Florida kind of maybe weathered the storm. They were, they had more size. And then they started the second half and got out to, I think it was 5 or 6, at least 5. And then Texas Tech and McCaslin completely outcoached Golden. They consistently ran a ball reversal, ISO on the block, one-on-one, and they back down, dribble back, lean your shoulder, just draw contact to kind of pause the shot blocker and put it right over them, over and over and over. Florida did not do anything to try and get the ball tempo up and down, and it was a half-court game, and Texas Tech built as much as a 10-point lead, and then 9, like you said, they scored with just over 3 minutes to go. Come down, how's it pronounced? Hauk with a K, like a K. Hauk, he hits 3. He was huge. I mean, big time. So, 1 minute span. Hauk 3-pointer. Front end of a 1-and-1 missed. Hauk 3-pointer. Front end of a 1-and-1 missed. The star.
Toppin.
No.
Clayton.
Clayton 3. And we're back to scratch. In 1 minute. From basically 3 minutes to 2 minutes. I mean, all that lead, all that. And what does McCaslin do? You didn't do anything wrong. Usually a meltdown like this, man, the coach made a mistake. The biggest thing is Florida got big-time lucky. And Golden wants to try and say that because you fouled 1-and-1, 4 of the 5 free throw shooters shoot over 80%, including Williams, who shoots 84%, who was 2 for 2 on the game. They tried to. They were supposed to foul, or at least they did a half-assed job of it, and didn't foul when they easily could have. They get the ball to Williams, and I don't know if they intended to foul there or they didn't. Golden played it off like they did. They looked like they were supposed to foul Toppin. Toppin is clearly the weakest free throw shooter, and he was 0 for 4 on the game. But they foul Williams 84%. Who sends an 84% free throw shooter to the line with 3 minutes to go? No one.
No.
Well, he missed, and they come down and hit it. So it was, and then Clayton. Oh my God, this dude's clutch. And so they call timeout. It's tied now. Texas Tech comes down and gets a bucket. Their only bucket in this, 16-2 run. What does Clayton do? He's flashing in the lane. He's right there. Who races with over a minute to go? This is like when you're down 3 with 4 seconds to go. Races out to the 3-point line and shoots an off-balance 3 and knocks it down. Huh? And how many of his shots, because he has so much attention, are off balance? How many of them are he's moving, he's this and that, and he talked about it after. I said, man, the defenses are tough right now. And it was just, I thought, 2 guys, Hauk and Clayton, really bailed out their coach because I was worried about it. Charlie, one of the assistant coaches were hyperventilating on the side. They were unnerved. McCaslin did all he could, and what do? I mean, it was just, they didn't actually. We've seen national championships won and blown at the free throw line. We've seen it. NC State, Houston, NC State, the whole run.
Michigan.
Michigan.
Ramil Robinson making those shots against Seton Hall.
How about Indiana? in '87
Indiana.
against LSU and Syracuse.
Yep, put Derek Coleman and Fess Irvin on the line.
Two freshmen put them at the line in one-on-one situations, missed the front end. To the point where it became too much, where we went to double bonus after 10. So the max you could shoot is 3 1-and-1s. It happened to fall like that. And Florida escapes because I thought after UConn they'd be better, but man, Texas Tech played. They were so well coached. They executed so well for so long. Just didn't. Just left some free throws at the line.
The shots that Clayton hit, because Hawk hit 2 and then Clayton hit 2. There's 4 for 4 from 3-point range.
I know.
It reminded me a little bit, not completely, but a little bit of the ending of the game against UConn, where Hurley says, "Hey man, look, we made this guy take some really tough shots, and he made them. These are NBA type shots." That Clayton makes in the last 3 minutes against UConn, and they ended up winning that game by 2. They ended up winning this game by 5. Clayton has hit arguably, 4 of the 6 biggest shots in this tournament. With some of these things.
He's the star that bailed him out too when they absolutely have to have him. Yeah,
and when you got that guy, I mean, they got that guy. Duke's got that guy.
But Golden, part of it is you have Sweet 16 experience as a coach. And Golden was the one that, with all the metrics, their offensive efficiency, their defensive efficiency, and our eyeballs tell us they're damn good. I mean, they're really, really talented and deep. But he got bailed out. And, I mean, there's some good coaches that get to this point. I think McCaslin's a star on the bench. I mean, what more can – I mean – what you missed your front end. I mean, it was gone. Bam! All that work against that team, and it was gone like that. So,
Florida 2.5-point favorite against Auburn in the first semifinal. Duke a 4.5-point.
What would that be with Janai
Houston.
Broome if you didn't have this? Is it Rudy Macklin memories? Regional final.
Well, he's
down in New Orleans.
He's downplaying it, but of course I would expect him to downplay it.
You've seen him. You saw it. He's not going to be 100%.
No, he's going to be a little
bit
compromised.
He's going
to play. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's downplaying it. I have no idea what.
Rudy played. Was he 100%?
He was not.
No,
he was not.
Did it impact the game?
Yeah, it did.
Yes.
Yeah.
You think this will?
How can it not? He's the best player. He's Auburn's best player. He's either he or Flagg's going to win National Player of the Year.
But forget the award. I mean,
but yes,
we see both of these teams without their players.
Right.
How did they do?
Auburn won both games that Broome sat out, I believe. So
the guards are playing really good right now.
I think
this Pettiford's a star.
I give Florida a little bit of an edge, and I still got if only because Barkley reminded me, a bunch of times over the weekend, and he should have. He said, man, I was at that game in the jungle, and Florida came down there and put it on us.
Well, what did they do in that game? They didn't have to double. Their bigs and guys like Condon really showed that he's a little bit maybe more physical than maybe his appearance looks like because they did not have to help with him. And they rotated their guys, and they didn't have to help on Broome, and they could stay on the shooters. And if you don't remember, they fell behind double digits early. Auburn was up double digits early.
Yeah.
And they just beat them and beat them at that place.
And it was late in the first half. It was in the latter stages of the first half because Florida led it by 10 at halftime. They were in control. They were taking control of the game.
But it
at the half.
So, Max, you read you interpreted the Golden in his tactics a little differently.
No, so I had heard, I was listening to the very end. I watched most of the game, but I was listening to the end on the radio, and PJ Carlissimo was on the call, and he made it, he suggested immediately that they were trying to foul Toppin, not just the first possession, but the second possession. The first possession, they didn't get to him. They tried to double him, ends up getting it out, and they foul Williams, and it looks like Hawk looks back to the bench and sort of like, well, we tried to foul him over there. We didn't try to foul Williams. It was an interesting way of going about it. They were talking about it on the radio broadcast. Watching back on TV, it doesn't look like they really talked about it much, and normally Stan Van Gundy's pretty good about that. But it was an interesting way to do it. Look, ultimately, you mentioned the size being a problem for Texas Tech. Florida, 25 of 27 from the free throw line.
They shoot. They're an excellent free throw shooting team.
72% for the year. They shoot 93% in this game, make 18 more free throws than Tech does. So that's ultimately the difference. But it was an interesting way to go about it. Totally agree with you on McClaslin. he is great, and he is analytically driven in that they don't take mid-range shots. It's very much like the NBA. They are taking shots around the basket in the paint or threes, and they've done very well all year.
Another thing that he does, the most screwed up in college basketball is managing the clock in whether what are you doing in one possession game running the clock down? I mean, you can't compromise your possession. Charlie, when they go into it, they run a little clock, and I mean that 12 to 14 mark, they're getting into their offense where they don't. And Golden talked about in the post game that they clear out a lot for Williams and Toppin because they're really good in their kind of ISO, their one-on-one game. But they rarely run clock, and this may have affected. And it kind of sounded like Golden may have affected their approach a little bit to be more aggressive early, but they are very frustrating because they're not just throwing away a possession. They're going to run clock, and they're going to get a quality possession. It's tough to do, and they execute it to perfection.
So our Final Four set 4 number 1 seeds at the Final Four in San Antonio this weekend.
Don't forget our friends at Legacy Title. Chad Reynolds, Legacy Title for all your real estate closings. 296-0060, full-service title company servicing all of South Louisiana. Fast, friendly, professional services, which you get every time you call 296-0060. Ashley Bonham-Donald, Mariana Broussard-Haynes, Adrian Reese-Galata, Michael Platt, and Natalie and Bradford Smith. Buying, building, refinancing, nobody chooses you but you. Chad Reynolds, Legacy Title, 296-0060.
Live at the Queen, live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jimmy, Charlie, and Troy. 3 best buddies sitting around talking sports bets. Let's welcome in Troy Macker from Bet Rivers.
All right, Troy. Well, you tell me if I'm right or not, but, we talked about how the public got bruised up pretty good in the NCAA tournament the first 2 rounds because it's the one time when the public bets a lot of dogs and the mid-majors get slapped around. Looks like the public is getting a big chunk back now, especially with these money line parlays. Teams like Duke covering. Is that the case?
Yeah, it definitely is. Maybe not so much in the Elite Eight, but the Sweet 16 was, heavily on the chalk on a lot of the lines too. To the point that I had. I know it's like fantasy football. No one really cares about your fantasy football team, nor do people care about your bets. But I had a 4-team parlay on Thursday night, all favorites to win outright, hit. I had a 4-team parlay on Friday. All 4 favorites to hit to win outright, that hit. And then I had an 8-team parlay, all 8 favorites to win in the Sweet 16, and that hit, and that was at 11-1. It wasn't a huge, a unit price, but you just saw the way this tournament was going, and you get the teams, even teams battling each other, and the cream rises to the top. I think that's the case. You look at the 4 biggest wins for the public all came in the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight. Duke's win over Arizona was the biggest public win of the whole tournament. Florida versus Maryland was the second biggest. Florida versus Texas Tech was the third, and then Bama versus BYU. And those are all second weekend games. Those are in a lot of those high-scoring affairs. Duke and Arizona and Alabama, BYU specifically.
Now Troy, you said Duke over Arizona, and Arizona covered. They've just bet that much on the money line, laying that big of a number?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we've seen a ton of money on Duke's money line. A lot of live, which is not, a great price, but we see an exorbitant amount of money on live money line betting. You're really giving up a lot to short prices, but, if you have conviction on favorites, that is the case. And also, I remember in that Duke-Arizona game, we took a mid-5-figure bet on an alt line at Duke Duke minus 5.5. Now, again, you're giving some up on the price, but that hit. And, it wasn't a crazy short odds. It was probably around, like minus 198, so you're still winning money. So, people aren't necessarily playing the traditional lines here.
The line movement went all the way from 4.5 to 2.5 on a Houston-Tennessee game, so that indicates, was it that much public money on Tennessee, the one dog in this for this stretch?
Yeah, there was a decent amount. It definitely shifted. As the game started, people started to hammer Houston. But we're talking 58% of the money was on Houston, or was on Tennessee to cover, and 58% of the tickets was on Houston to cover, or on Tennessee to cover. Excuse me, and that was really, I believe, one of the only spots in the Elite Eight where the dog was the public pick to cover. It was slight leans to Duke and Florida and Auburn, but Tennessee, I think, because it was a low-scoring game, that people thought it was going to be low-scoring, and Tennessee had looked a little bit better on offense in the previous game with that late spurt. But the thing with Houston is all their shots were dropping. We worry about when they really start to play elite teams that will the offense match the defense, or in the case of last year where there was a bad injury. But the offense against Tennessee looked great. Now they played with utter confidence because they only held Tennessee to 15 first half points, so they were far more confident. I don't think they're going to be that confident in their offense against Duke, but I think people played off the fact that Tennessee looked really good in their previous game from an offensive standpoint, where that not being their strength, and figured out they should be able to cover in a close game against a team that is also challenged on offense somewhat in Houston.
Yeah, I mean, recency bias. I mean, it affects the betting public, no doubt. A lot of people got off of Texas Tech with their scare after looking so shaky, and quite lucky against Arkansas, and on the flip side, Florida looking so good against Maryland. So we saw that. And in Alabama, did Alabama get bet against Duke? Was that a little bit more even as public as Duke is after that 25 3-point performance?
Yeah, and I think it had a lot to do with, for the first time, in a long time, Duke didn't win by double digits. They've won like 15 of their last 18 games by double digits, and most are by 20. So them not covering, I think, and what people saw out of Alabama, a lot of people took Alabama, especially the cover. It was 49% of the money was on Alabama, so right there. And in terms of tickets, there is a 13-ticket difference between spread on Duke and spread on Alabama, with a slight lean towards Duke. I think that, again, it's a recency bias. Alabama looked great. Duke looked, I won't say suspect, but they did not look as dominant. And then they come out and win by 20.
Are we seeing what's the early action like? I would have to think some Florida. Everybody looking at Broom's injury.
Yeah. We haven't taken a ton of money on Florida Auburn. We have taken a healthy amount of money on Duke to win and Duke to cover. In terms of money line, right now it's about 71% of the money line money is on Florida to win, and about 63% of the spread money is on Florida to cover. But we haven't taken too much on that. I think, there's a little bit more research to be done and waiting to see. And it's not just one injury with Broom. Certainly the elbow, if you watch the last 5 minutes, gutsy performance, but he did not move it. He favored it at all points, where at one point he was going to save the ball out of bounds, but realized he couldn't extend his elbow, so he had to contort his body and use his other hand. It was a very awkward move, and you could tell right away that, he's gutting through it, which is great, but elbow injuries can be fickle. And he also, had that nasty ankle sprain, so I think that will weigh in a lot. And, Florida's bigs have looked really, really good, especially from outside. So Auburn's going to be tasked with, defending, all around the court.
Duke minus 110 right now to win the whole thing. How much? What's a percentage breakdown of what they have left compared to the three teams remaining in this Final Four?
Yeah, so I'm looking at all the money, including teams that are no longer in it. I haven't looked at just the 4 teams left, but 25% of all tournament money outright is on Duke, and about 21% of the tickets. Florida has about 17% of all money and 10% of the tickets. Auburn's at 14% of the money, 14% of tickets, and Houston's at 7% and 5%. And because Florida, earlier in the season you could get them at 30-1, 25-1, even some off-season 60-1. There is certainly a big liability there, but Auburn, started the season I believe at 30-1 as well. So there's a lot. This is worst case scenario for the book because we do take a lot of futures action. You could still Duke with a great price at like 3-1 before the tournament. I certainly wouldn't buy them now at minus 110 because I think there are ways to wait and see what the matchup is in the final game, and if they're in it and they're playing a banged up Houston team a banged up Auburn team, you could potentially just parlay it with a heavy money line favorite in another sport and get back to that minus 110. I think that is a smart play. And I generally don't like taking futures at minus money. Florida, I think a Duke-Florida national championship game would be the worst for the book because there are some 20 to 1, 30 to 1, 51, 60 to 1 tickets on Florida and some 4 or 5 figure wagers.
There you go. So see if anybody could beat Duke, but they crushed Alabama. They were very, very impressive. Houston was impressive too. One thing about it, Houston ain't backing down. I mean, how that game is officiated is going to be very, very interesting. We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
What you feel, Troy? Let us know at any point if the house needs the Dodgers this year. I'm curious. I'm seeing 162 out of 162. I'm saying I don't know if that. Unless maybe they play, if the Yankees hit, 8 home runs, if they average 8 home runs a game, maybe they bet the Yankees if they play them interleague. I don't know.
It's crazy, and the thing is we're going to see. We saw it a little bit in the Sunday game, but we're going to see a major uptick in Yankees player props because of the bat. The Dodgers have been a public team for the last 3 years. That's not going to change. What I think will change is if this continues, you're going to start to see some money line prices that are not usual to baseball. Usually a money line price for a heavy favorite or a good team playing the White Sox last year would be like minus 325. It rarely gets to minus 400 or 500. This is not a college football game against the haves and the have-nots. I would not be surprised if you're seeing some minus 500 on Dodgers money line because there's just so many people playing it. They're easily the best team in baseball. It's certainly early on, but we're going to see a unique scenario where there's going to be some money line lines that are far shorter than anything we've seen in the last 4 or 5 years.
Well, guess what, Charlie? What's the job of an odds maker? Try and draw equal action, right?
Both sides.
They're not high enough. 500 is not high enough. You're going to have to get to 700, 800. I mean, they're just not high enough because you're not getting anywhere close to equal money. Not even close. I don't understand why they're not higher.
Last week, when the day the season started, they said they will be more 2.5 run lines than regular run lines.
1.5.
Which is. That's a college baseball thing.
That's right. That's right.
It's more of a college baseball thing. Hey, Troy, can I ask you a question about this basketball tournament tonight? I think this is an interesting concept that
Starts
they've come up with.
Too, huh?
The first game is at 2 o'clock. I think it's interesting because we're so wrapped up in basketball, and then all of a sudden you got the Final Four this weekend, so you would ordinarily have 5 days with no basketball. So they plug this tournament in. They put some NIL dollars into it so they make sure the players stick around. But we're looking at games. Nebraska, for instance, is playing tonight against Arizona State. They haven't played a game since March 9th. We don't have any comp to this. I mean, it's kind of like the football bowl games, but basketball, we don't have any comps. I realize we could see some really ugly basketball. Arizona State has won 1 game since February 1st, but is there any interest in this thing at all?
Yeah, on a couple of the games, was it Utah Butler? I've seen you taking some decent action there. I agree that it could be very ugly, and it's not going to be indicative of what these teams are because of the gaps, because of the transfer portal and all that stuff. I do like the setup. I like a generally neutral site tournament in a short period of time, in between gaps of the major events going on. Not too dissimilar to the UFL, doing spring football. But I think I also saw a lot of UFL this weekend in ads. But so trying to compete against a Sunday golf tournament and NBA games heating up and NCAA tournament is foolish when they should have done it back when they started the XFL in early February. But I think for trying to do the NIT, the CBI, and the CIT in and around the NCAA tournament was a bad idea. Having this in 4 or 5 days in one location, especially early afternoon games, I think this is a great idea. I don't know how great the games are going to be, and I think you can really, if you're doing some studying, you can really get on the lines early because I think there's going to be a growth adjustment after we see these teams play for the first time in 2 or 3 weeks. But I generally believe afternoon games will garner a larger stake of the handle. So I think this is good, and it's quality teams. It's all name recognition teams. That's no knock on the teams that won their regular season in a mid-major but did not win their conference tournament. This is,
right.
As a fan of Georgetown, they're not very good, but people would rather see them than North Texas.
No, they do have some, some bigger names, no doubt about that. And as far as quality of basketball, I mean, we saw, this is a go to the Final Four of the NIT. It's not getting much uglier than that 61-59 Oklahoma State North Texas game. That was hard to watch. I mean, so
I'm tempted to float an under bet on this first game just to see, just a little trial balloon to see.
I think it's going to work. I think it's going to work. It is live sports content. It is right in the middle, and it's void. And then your appetizer for your Final Four on Saturday. It's all major, pretty popular. FS1 and ESPN. The networks is not hidden on like the Mountain West channel or something like that. So I think it's for secondary tournaments, it's going to be what it is. But I think it's got a shot.
Yeah. And Fox owns the whole thing, by the way.
The thing is doing afternoon games because we're all familiar with that. We've now gotten away from that in the Elite Eight and the Sweet 16. So please give us more afternoon basketball. That's what makes Thursday and Friday the tournament so great. Even though some of those games aren't great, some of those teams weren't very good. Let's do it now, and with teams and can get some action.
And the handle on those midweek afternoon games is pretty good. This is in. People like to bet while they're at work. Yes. Troy, thank you, buddy. Follow Troy on Twitter at Troy Macker. That's MACHIR. Appreciate it. Thank you, Troy.
Thanks, guys.
Don't forget our friends over at Los Reyes Mexican Grill on Lee, just off of Nicholson. It's my favorite little stop on the way home here from the Queen on the weekends. And you start off with a little bit. You got salads, you got enchiladas, tamales, quesadillas, burritos, tacos, you name it, man. They got a brisket tacos, which are really good. I like the fajita steak burrito with the queso sauce. You talk about delicious. Always start off with the fresh guacamole and some fresh jalapenos, Santa Fe egg rolls, the flautas, just a little bit of everything over there at Los Reyes. Friendly staff always. Mr. Scott, Mr. Kyle managing. Miss Blair behind the bar after her Mardi Gras injury. All are just a friendly staff, and they'll put the game on what you want to watch. It's a great happy hour, 2:30 to 6:30, 7 days a week. Tell them you heard it right here, 104.5 ESPN, Los Reyes Mexican Grill, Lee off of Nicholson, right across from Mike Anderson's.
Live at the Queen, live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny from the Queen Casino on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Kind of a bizarre situation over at Stanford. Last week they fired Troy Taylor, their head coach. This was an off-the-field thing. He had been basically berating staffers, specifically female staffers, and they launched an investigation. Anyway, long story short, they fired him last week. Today they hired Frank Reich, former NFL coach, to be the head coach at Stanford. They just hired him for 1 year, though. That's the bizarre part. I realize that March is not exactly when you want to be hiring football coaches, and it's extreme circumstances, but they're bringing in Reich for a full year as an interim coach. And both sides said 1 year, and that's it. What if he does well? They're still going to run him off.
1 year for David Tepper, 1 year for Andrew Luck. Who would you rather?
Right, exactly. I'll work for Andrew Luck. Anyway, Frank Reich headed to Palo Alto. Hour number 2 is next from the Queen. Live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny from the Queen Casino on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
And we're back here at the Queen, live at lunch. Terrific setup over here to watch all of the games. You're coming out to watch the Final Four this weekend. You can watch baseball, NBA. We got basketball here in about 2 hours. The Crown, the Crown is what we're calling it. The tournament out in Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
The Crown. The Crown tournament. Okay, that comes on 2 o'clock. Good a setup as you'll ever see.
It's a Fox Sports one. It's a Fox Sports, so they have the they have the broadcast rights for Big 12, Big 10, Big East, and they had the automatics. And even when they were doing their studio shows, the last month or so, when they were trying to project, this is a projected 3 seed, 5 seed, 7 seed, then they'd have a crown while the team's just out. So there's, I think it's a top 2 from all those leagues, maybe top 3.
They have 8 games, so
16 teams.
16 teams.
16 teams, and the scheduling fits. The scheduling fits. They're using the MGM Garden, where I watched 21 Pilots, and then also
I saw Jimmy Buffett there.
Yeah, so they there and also T-Mobile. I think the first round is all at the MGM Garden, and then
Quarterfinal is as well. You'll get to the semis. It'll go to T-Mobile.
Semis and final all at T-Mobile.
Yes.
So,
Are the finals after the Final Four? Or the next
Sunday, April 6th, so in the middle. The
Okay,
day that
okay,
they're off.
okay.
they have a
Gotcha.
doubleheader.
Okay.
They have a doubleheader preceding the Final Four on Saturday. So it's, I mean, and that's before your women's game, national championship game on Sunday. So it's just well thought out. It gives them a chance.
Yes,
you know?
it's
I mean,
nice scheduling.
So it's a void in the college basketball season. So anyway,
You got to watch all of the college, or most of the college basketball, without having to go split screen if you were watching LSU baseball this weekend because they were playing late, very, very late on both Friday and Saturday night. In fact, the Saturday game didn't finish until 1:44 a.m. On Sunday morning. But LSU swept the series from Mississippi State. The game on Friday was the one I thought it was going to be the toughest for LSU to win, with Pico Cone going for Mississippi State. In fact, I said on the show on Friday that I thought Mississippi State should have been favored in the game. But Tigers won it by a score of 2-1. Anthony Ianson had a terrific outing. He pitched 5 innings. He only gave up the 1 unearned run. He struck out 12. That's the deepest he has gotten into a game, 103 pitches, and I thought he did a really, really good job of getting Mississippi State to chase a breaking ball all night. But even bigger was the story of the weekend, and I think what the story of LSU's early SEC play is 2 guys out of the bullpen that are flat-out winning games for LSU. And on Friday or Thursday, it was Zach Cowan, and on Friday, it was Kason Evans. And Cowan allowed only 1 over the minimum in LSU's comeback win in Game 1. And in Game 2, Evans threw 4 shutout innings. Now, he did walk 3, and he had to rely on some strikeouts once he loaded the bases. He had to kind of wiggle out of trouble. But these 2 guys, whose ERAs are about 1 each, in fact, Evans is a little bit below 1, are flat-out winning games for LSU. The starters have been about a 5-inning, ish, even Anderson, maybe 6. But these are long relief. These are 2-time through the order saves, or in some cases wins, that these 2 guys are getting. And I get why the questions are starting to come. Should either one of these guys go into the rotation? And for Cowan, he was a Friday night guy for Wofford last year, so it's a role he's used to. But for the moment, and I put this on track, I would leave them right where they are, because they're coming into some of the highest leverage situations that LSU could have. There was no margin for error for Evans the other night. He protected a 1-run lead. And for Cowan, LSU ends up winning that game by 2 runs. So their 2 most effective pitchers are coming out of the pen right now. And I may feel differently in a month when they get into the back end of the SEC season, but for right now, I would leave them right where they are. Cone was really good through his 5 innings. He gave up the 2 solo homers, and that was all LSU got. Fry and Hernandez each got a solo dinger, and that was it. Evans made it stand up. The game on Saturday, which again started very, very late, Chase Shores again battling. The line's going to look worse than what I thought he actually pitched. He pitched 1 really good inning in the first, and in the third and the fourth he was fine. He took a line drive off his face, a pretty nasty looking shot. He was able to finish the inning, but that was the end of his day, and it got away from him in the fourth. But the walk total wasn't as high as some of the other games that he's played. But LSU's bullpen, once you get past Evans and Cowan, is a dicey situation. And 5 different pitchers came in, and none of them pitched particularly effectively. Connor Ware, Maverick Ritzie, DJ Premu, Connor Binge, and Cooper Williams, none of them really pitched well. Jaden Newt did, who's been mostly in a starting role during the week. He came in and finished up. The LSU bats really got to the the Tigers scored 8 runs in the first inning, so the issue had pretty much been put to bed, and they really demolished the Mississippi State bullpen as well. So Newt coming in late, and I thought Shore's line was a little bit better than I thought he pitched a little bit better than what his line looked like. So Tigers at 7-2 on the season. Look, these are just numbers. I'm going to give them to you. They have 2 sweeps. They have one against Mississippi State and one against Missouri. Those 2 teams are combined 1-17 in SEC play. Now, 6 of those losses are to LSU, but it's still 1-11. So I'm not going to tell you that this is the top of the league. But there's some pretty strange things that you look into those SEC standings. Florida's 1-8. A&M's 1-8. Okay, these are top 10 teams preseason, and for A&M, they were number 1 in a couple of the polls. So it's a little bit strange. The next 4 weeks, LSU's going to play nothing but top 20 teams. Oklahoma's number 9 this week. It's LSU's first ever trip to Norman. I would expect crowds the same as what they were at Texas. You got a brand name. You got a top 5 team coming in. LSU's never been there. I would expect the place is going to be off the hook. So be a lot of fun to watch that one. And we had a kind of a bizarre thing with A&M's having a nightmare season. Preseason number 1, and they're 1-8. And yesterday, something we don't see happen very often anymore. Something we don't see happen very often anymore. Just about everybody in the league is chartering to games, so we don't see the curfew come in the Southeastern Conference play the way we used to. This used to be the Sunday. It was routine. No new inning could start after whatever time, so a team could catch a commercial flight. Well, that was in play yesterday at Texas A&M, and Kentucky had a 10-5 lead. It was 4:30-ish when there were 2 outs in the bottom of the 8th. Well, obviously A&M down 5 runs. They wanted to get through that bottom of the 8th so they could have another at bat in the 9th. They accused Kentucky of stalling, and well, worked. They didn't have time to play the 9th inning, so Kentucky gets out of there with a 10-5 win. Jimmy, you said you were watching. Were they stalling?
Yeah, I mean, well, the team that doesn't have charter flights knows the drill, and is this guy known for a little gamesmanship? Who do you coach under?
John Cohen. He coached under
Charlie.
Cohen.
This is your corner of the store. Come
know.
on, wake up, boy.
I know.
And the young coach got into it, and then he said, I mean, it was. I'm a little surprised that they allowed them to shake hands after.
You thought they might.
Yeah, it was heated, Jack. Well, they were MFing each other pretty good, man.
I saw a little bit of the footage Max was showing me during the break, because my first thought was, how can you stall with a pitch clock? Well, what they were doing is it's a little bit of gamesmanship coming into the inning, and the catcher is complaining that he can't hear in his earpiece, and it bought him just a couple of minutes, but that's all they needed. Mm-hmm. And you got to get creative.
This is tournament ball crap, man. It's just.
PitchCom allows for some ambiguity, right? I mean, you got to just kind of trust the players if they're having communication problems.
It's like
an
injury.
Now.
It's like an injury.
Yeah, you're falling down to stop the fast-paced offense. Do I think that their catcher was having communication problems 2 minutes to the curfew? I do not. Okay, but I've seen worse. I know it got pretty spirited out there when they were talking. So,
Charlie, LSU 1-2 against a team that's 6-1 in the league, and they're 6-0 against 2 teams that are 1-15 in the league.
1-17 in the league. Yeah.
Who's
Missouri is 0-9, and
they only have one down for 7.
Okay, that's the SEC website.
Yeah,
I'm not surprised it's not updated.
0-7.
Yeah, they're 0-9. The 1-17 out of those 2 look, the numbers are the numbers. I thought LSU and Texas, when they played, I thought it was a really even series. I thought LSU controlled the Friday night game. I thought Texas controlled the Sunday game, and I thought the Saturday game could have gone either way. Yeah.
They're top 10 team.
Yeah. And what what you want to see out of this group is I think they continue to make progress. I think Shores is better now than he was 2 weeks ago. I think Ianson's better now than he was 2 weeks ago. Those two guys out of the bullpen are pitching lights out. I think that the lineup is very balanced. I think they've got a nice righty-lefty balance. They're playing solid defense. They're not perfect, but there's some room to improve. There's guys that haven't reached their ceiling yet. For instance, William Schmidt didn't pitch this weekend. I would expect he'll start tomorrow night against Louisiana Tech. I don't know that, but he's a guy that I think is going to be able to help them in May and June. I think Shores will be better in May than he is now once he's got another 30, 40 innings under his belt. I feel the same way about Ianson. I've seen a little bit of progress. I think they're getting better. Now, they're going to play some way better teams. Oklahoma, Auburn, Alabama, Tennessee is the next 4 weeks. They're all in the top 15. So price of poker's going up. You've played the weakest teams on your schedule so far. But I think they're pretty good.
Can I give you a little heads up here, Charlie?
Yeah.
They get Oklahoma on the weekend on the road, 5-4 team in conference play, so a bit of a fair test. In the middle of the road.
A real competitive series with Alabama.
We're looking at maybe a pitcher-friendly ballpark this weekend, at least on the first two games. So watch out for, or it's actually a Thursday through Saturday series, so it might be very windy, blowing in all week, so you got to throw strikes. That's been a bit of a problem. They had 8 walks in 5 innings on Saturday with the bullpen, so throw strikes if it's going to be a pitcher-friendly ballpark.
Well, if they don't have as good a bullpen at Oklahoma, they're in trouble. Because Oklahoma and Alabama got it's typical of sort of mid type of teams in college baseball. But they don't have any. It was anything out the bullpen in that series was a rally.
LSU's got 2 monsters out of their bullpen, but it drops off dramatically.
That's pretty good.
No.
I mean,
they've got 2 guys that are
2
not
aces out the bullpen.
That's exactly
pretty
right.
good.
And multi-inning aces too.
We are.
When you got 2 guys that come out of your bullpen to do what those 2 guys are doing, what Griffin Herring did last year, that's an awful big luxury to have. And I think they're going to
when you watch, I've been watching some of this college baseball around, and just some of the things that you take for granted with a program like LSU are just missing. And it's not just lack of bullpen. I mean, we're talking about some plays that U12 you'd be getting pissed off if they did. I mean, mental mistakes. I mean, you really the physical and mental. So but the bullpen. I mean, that's what Bertman always said, man. Before he had just a lineup that would say, all right, let's just bash now. But when he was first he had to outmanage people and we win games if he get the most out of his roster. No, man. Hey, it's a big drop off from your starting pitching to your bullpen in college baseball. Let's get to it. And that's kind of what it was with that Oklahoma-Alabama series. So, Charlie, no mention of the 1-run game, the 2-on, 2-out rally killed by the clock. No mention, Charlie.
I should have. I should have.
I mean,
you know what? We talked about it during the break. Jay Johnson. Okay, for those runners on base in a 1-run game, and there's 2 strikes on the batter, and Johnson is watching the clock like a hawk. He screams out of the dugout, pitch clock violation, and they called a strike, and it was strike 3, and it was out number 3.
I couldn't believe they made that call.
The clock is the clock. It's not something we're used to in baseball.
Flip it. LSU loses a 1-run game and their biggest threat to runners at second, a single away from winning, and they enforce it to the book against LSU.
Yeah.
I think it'd be a little bit more conversation going on.
I'd say a rule's a rule.
I'd
say a rule's a rule.
And I know the LSU baseball fan base. But look, crickets. I mean, I thought, come on, man, I want to see the player.
It's not how I want to see a game.
And you
decided,
said
in honesty,
was it Blake? I almost got give him a hard 2 count extra. All right, I got it. You're forcing me to call it now.
Right.
I got to see a warning before, which there was.
There was a warning,
not at that at bat.
No,
not that particular batter.
No,
but because this. Was it like State was trying to game LSU? There was no delay.
I didn't feel that way. No,
I was just wait, what?
I did.
Wait, what? He run 2-on-2. A 2-1 game, pretty big.
I give Johnson credit for working the rule.
No. Hey, if I'm Johnson, I am doing the same thing.
Yeah.
I am.
But is that how I want to see it play out? No, it's not. I want to see the game play out. I mean,
would you get mad at Johnson if you're an opposing fan? Oh man, it's Bush League or whatever. I mean, no, I can't. I'm trying to enforce the rule. I'm not trying to enforce the rule.
Think about it this way: you get 10 seconds to shoot a free throw in basketball, which is
never
enforced.
I mean, Patrick Ewing shot 8,000 free throws over that.
Exactly. So if in one of those Elite Eight games this weekend, in a 1-point game with 4 seconds to go, they called a free throw violation.
Man, you got to warn it. You got to tell the coach, man. Look, we got to. I mean, it's.
I know there was a warning before. I don't know how strenuous it was or anything like that. I didn't think that there was gamesmanship going on with Mississippi State. I didn't.
I didn't like it.
No, I give Johnson credit for working the rule, but no, I want to see him play it.
Damn,
I want to see him play it.
The biggest threat of the game.
Yeah.
I mean, okay.
A 2-1 game.
Nobody wants to see the umpires decide the game.
I don't.
I got to use a little bit more discretion there. Johnson, I'm in his 100%. I'm doing the same thing. I'm trying to steal a call, steal the biggest out of the game.
Yeah.
Steal the biggest out of the game.
One-run game.
That's my job. I mean, y'all figure it out. You can hate me all you want, but no, I thought it was weak by the umpires.
We're brought to you by the Thibodaux Store, 900 St. Patrick Highway in Thibodaux. Your Cajun cooking, specialty cookware, shipped right to your door. Man, we were
Cajun cookware. You just say it like it's it's awesome.
I was going to talk about the entire section of Cajun cooking that it took me a long time to get you out of that store. I
loved it.
You were shopping.
I was like a kid in a candy store, man. You like to outdoor cook. You like to do your stuff in your outdoor kitchen, tailgating. I mean, I'm just sitting there and I'm like, man, I think I can go to Gonzales and compete in this Jambalaya Festival with these rigs. All different sizes, price points, Charlie. Great. A great line like the Cajun Classic cast iron cookware, the Big Egg grills with all the accessories. Do not get a Big Egg without the Igniter. I mean, that makes it, instead of flipping, you just tell that for 2 minutes and your coals are lit. The Charbroil oilless turkey fryers, jambalaya pots, burners of all sizes. How about the outdoor stoves, single, double, and triple burners, in a crawfish boil, rigs, burners, pots, strainers, washers, gadgets galore. I mean, where's the damn Thibodaux store been all my life?
900 St. Patrick Highway and online, doitbest.com/Thibodaux store.
Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny from the Queen Casino on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Back here at the Queen, live at lunch. The LSU women's basketball season came to an end yesterday, 72-65 against UCLA. There was a foul called on Lauren Betts. Lauren Betts, the 6'7" center All-American for UCLA, picked up her second foul with about a minute to go, just under a minute to go in the first quarter, and sat out the last minute of the first quarter in the entire second quarter. And LSU still went to the locker room down 31-25. Kim Mulkey said it after the game. I felt it watching. I'm sure most people did, that you had an opportunity when Betts was out of the game to, at the very least, take a lead, if not try to extend it, and give UCLA credit because they shot the ball very, very well when Betts went out of the game. They ended up 10 for 24 from three-point range. Gabriela Jaquez hit 4 out of the 5 that she took, and LSU just never could quite get into a rhythm in the first half offensively. I thought everything was a struggle. They shot better in the second half. Flaujah Johnson in particular got going, but UCLA kind of held them at arm's length. And when Betts came back into the game, there are some things that she can do that are almost undefensible for her. If she gets the ball at a certain depth, LSU didn't have anybody that could guard her. She wasn't the whole reason that they lost the game, but she had a lot to do with it. But mostly it was that second quarter where LSU should have been able to take advantage and instead lost the quarter by 10. The Tigers had also been getting big scoring performances and rebounding performance out of their bench in the last couple of games. I thought Samaya Smith did what she could. She was at a severe height disadvantage to Betts, but the points that she was getting in the first three games of the tournament were not there. Yesterday. Marks the end for Anissa Morrow, who had as good a 2-year run as you could possibly have, the double-double queen. She finished with 15 and 7 yesterday and took a nasty shot to her nose. They thought it was broken. It wasn't broken, but boy, she took a big shot when Betts pushed Smith into her. And it might be the end for Flau'jae Johnson, who's got a decision to make. She can declare for the WNBA draft because she turns 22 this calendar year. She has not decided yet. 31-6, and in the Elite Eight, the exact same record that the LSU women's basketball team had last year. So in the 4 years, 26-6 the first year, the round of 32, a roster that she built, pretty much from the ground up. National champions in 23, 31-6, and in the Elite Eight last year and this year. So good run. Comes up a little bit short of the Final Four, though.
So, Sally, kind of same thing, though, Charlie. You said, you thought they might have a chance to make a deeper run, stuff like that. But, I mean, I thought they, 3 seed. It's okay. You beat the 2 seed in a Sweet 16. They beat UCLA last year. But then you have a revenge spot against a team you knocked out the tournament the year before in that Sweet 16 range. So they, then knocked out of the tournament. Iowa was in a national championship game. Iowa had the revenge and served UCLA. I thought the biggest part of the game was when LSU was not able to stretch a lead with Betts on the bench. I mean, you have to. I mean, you
that's what I said. That's what Kim Mulkey said. That's what everybody.
Oh, okay, she said it too.
Yeah, she said it too.
It's obvious. But UCLA is a better team. That girl, she's a handful, man.
The number 1 seed.
I mean, they use her. Sometimes you can forget you're big. And, I mean, they'll post up when it's not totally covered. They'll train. Boom, she'll shoot it out. She'll repost. I mean, and they get it right back. They use her. And, it's a big advantage. And, I've seen UCLA play a few times this year. She's improved from what she was last year. She's good. She is a handful, man.
Great player. LSU finishes up 31-6. Watched a little of the South Carolina game going into leading in.
But twice.
Yeah.
Maryland and Duke.
Yeah. If you ask me who I think is going to win this thing right now, I'd say UConn. The way Beckers is playing, they get USC without Watkins. If you ask me to make a pick right now, just based on the games that I have seen, I would pick UConn to win the whole thing. I won't be shocked if UCLA wins it. They could, but my pick right now is UConn, the way that they are playing.
I wouldn't argue. South Carolina's playing with fire too much.
Yeah, they're just not quite. They're still very good. They're just not quite as good as they were the last 2 years.
They're deep, but it's just the juju's out. They give them credit. They're still winning, but that's gonna be hard. They play tonight.
Yeah.
It's who do they play?
UConn?
No, USC.
Yeah, UConn.
Oh, no. Well, there you go. Yeah.
That's.
I forgot that.
The other game, we both watched this game too. We watched the fourth quarter of TCU's game, and Haley Van Lith.
Hey.
Crazy against Notre Dame.
Either I was really wrong, or she's way better than she was last year.
Well, that fourth quarter on Saturday, man.
The whole game.
Really, the whole game. But they came from behind. They were behind going to fourth quarter.
They were down 9 in the third.
Yeah.
Okay. I think they were at the end of 3. They may have been down 1. They were down 9, and they are 8.5-point dogs.
And this thing is, you're right. It was like halfway through the third quarter they were down 9.
Oh,
and they started closing.
Yeah, she was awesome. Yep. They could not handle her. She took over. I mean, she was really, really good.
And she was on the ball.
If you saw her reaction after, she was so. I mean, It was cool. This is what sports is all about. The big stage, and she had now she did say, why'd I leave? Why'd I leave? She didn't say why leave. They kind of referenced it. Okay, and the whole studio show when they go to three broadcasters, 3 girls, they all stood up and gave her like a stand. She had been criticized by more than just Jimmy Ott. Okay.
Oh yeah.
She has been questioned why she would leave a program of LSU stature for TCU's. Okay, and she kind of said, "This is why." So go ahead, girl. Yeah. I mean, yes, indeed. That was impressive, man.
I stumbled on that game. I wasn't even looking for it, and I started watching it. I really got into it the last quarter and a half.
She was super. She was super, and I just did not see her. That Charlie, that's with and without the ball. It wasn't. She was just
right.
No, she was.
I thought a lot of her problems at LSU were that she was not comfortable on the ball. She was damn comfortable.
She scored everywhere on the floor. It wasn't just 3-pointers. She did everything. She used her body for separation when she finished. She was going both hands. She was really, and she knew it. Her after you say, you have those when you're feeling it. You have in one of those days, and she had one.
We're brought to you by Coastal Capital Advisors, your full-service financial planners, because when it comes to retirement, no two situations are exactly alike. So let Coastal Capital Advisors work with you, as well as your business partners and tax professionals and the legal team, to make sure all of your retirement goals are achieved. It doesn't matter what age you are or what your income is. They'll tailor-make a plan that works for you, and I know because that's what they did for me. For more information, contact Philip Fontenot and his staff, 337-981-1376. Online is coastalcapitaladv.com. Advisory services provided by New Age Advisors, member FINRA SIPC. Live at lunch from the Queen, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
At lunch with Ott and Hanny from the Queen Casino on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Back here at the Queen DraftKings Sportsbook, live at lunch. We had a discussion last week about Kevin Willard, who up until yesterday was the head coach at Maryland, and whether he would be taking the Villanova job. A lot of his frustration at Maryland stemmed from the fact that his AD was leaving for SMU, and they didn't know he didn't know who his boss was going to be. We also questioned what the finances would be at Maryland versus Villanova. Well, thanks to our friend Ross Dellinger, we now have the answer to that. Maryland announced that their revenue share, now this is not NIL, this is revenue share. If the judge signs off on this later this month, this is all sports.
All male sports? Or?
This is all sports, okay? The revenue share is signed off on later this month, and it's $20.5 million, which is what we expect. Mm-hmm. Maryland announced that they will put $14 million of that into the football program, which is about what we expect LSU will do, and $4 million into the men's basketball program. Okay, nothing out of the ordinary there. But here's what surprised me, Jimmy. Tell me if this surprises you. $4 million in men's basketball revenue share, not NIL. That's important designation. That is the second highest in the Big Ten. I would have thought that it would have been more than that. Yeah, that was my reaction to it as well. Villanova's revenue share is $6 million. Okay, again, revenue share, not NIL, $6 million. So he's getting 150% in just the revenue share money at Villanova. So even with the big $10,
so you're talking about Villanova's overall or their basketball?
Their basketball is $6 million. It's going to be $6 million.
Yeah, and they've had success. So they're putting more. He also got the Reds when they wanted to stay an extra night.
In New York City, at Christmas time, and they told him no, that they couldn't afford it, and he was aggravated. About
that was the interim AD that told him that. He coached at Seton Hall. He was the biggest thorn in the side of the of Villanova's run. So Villanova had a little special interest in him because he was, in their heyday, was every bit, going toe-to-toe with them. The game game was in Newark. It was that I want to think it was they played Villanova. Maryland played Villanova in Newark, and he still wanted to stay in New York. Mm-hmm. Was he going to meet with Villanova officials at the time?
Oh no.
He's getting a lot of people are. I mean,
we're not always privy to the finances of this stuff, and this is good reporting by Dellinger because it gives us an idea of where you are and what you need to be upper level.
But Villanova made a big deal out of their first payroll for their basketball team a year or two ago, and they were very public about it. Of the Big East schools, this would be the one, unless now Pitino's got some people excited at St. John's, which I can see.
Yeah.
But because they've had some success, do they have enough boosters that have kind of, stepped up to the plate? It seems like they have. And they're committed, from an administration as well. Now, they can also, you say NIL, you talk about player budget. This is
the revenue share. Okay, this is not NIL. The revenue shares, which is going to kick in, next school year, is, like I said, if the judge signs off on it, which we expect her to, it's going to be right around $20.5 million. You don't have to use it all. There's some schools that are saying, hey, we're not revenue sharing with our athletes. We don't have the money to
Villanova
do it.
doesn't have a Division I football program.
They do not. They do not.
I mean, but the basketball revenue share is going to be
$6 million.
50% more than what Maryland's is at $4 million. I'm sure they're paying him. They're matching him what Maryland was going to pay him also.
If not give him more.
Yeah, if not more. So I mean, he's, this is one where Big East school this is their number one, and they want to play.
Yeah,
they want to play.
$4 million. Maryland Sweet 16 team this year. Okay, you can be competitive with a $4 million budget. That's not over the top. It's not one of these. I mean, it's damn near what you're paying your coordinators in football. Okay, it's a very reasonable amount of money for your second biggest revenue producer, and in Villanova's case, your biggest revenue producer. Okay, $4 million is it's a doable number. Okay, we throw this stuff around like it's monopoly money. Okay, I don't expect that they can go out and spend $30 million on a basketball team, or even $10 million on a basketball team. $4 million seems like a reasonable amount of money in a $200 million budget that you can spend that on men's basketball. Actually, you should probably spend maybe a little bit more than that. LSU's budget is right at $200 million bucks. Okay, and to me, $4 million out of the.
All right, I want to ask you again. You keep saying NIL. You mean player budget?
I mean, this is revenue share. This is
I understand that. So you could come back and if
you can get another $10 million in NIL,
we're not talking about endorsements to do chicken or law commercials.
No,
okay?
this is
all right.
This is money from the university to the player.
Right, I get that. But you say when they can also have outside player budget from boosters?
NIL, yeah. You can have
you
NIL.
Call it an NIL. It's not. I'm not talking about the chicken commercials. Okay, the law commercials. Everybody calls it NIL. It's player budget. The guy isn't going to Alabama to play point guard because he's got he's going to do
money that comes
from
Sonic
commercial.
Money that comes from outside sources besides the university.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's still uncapped. Okay. And what that money is, now that I don't know. But this is what's coming from the university itself. Reasonable amount of cash.
Yeah, I mean, it's Maryland, I mean, he left a better deal.
Maryland's a good
He's also known as
basketball budget. A good basketball school. Villanova's a better basketball school.
It is. It's Jay Wright built, and they have to capitalize while it's still in memory.
Yeah.
We can't go back and.
Do you think Willard leaves if they would have matched the revenue share and the AD would still be there? I mean, if we talk apples to apples, if the guy that hired him was still there and they matched what Villanova's spending in revenue share, would he have stuck around at Maryland?
They didn't. No.
They didn't. No, the guy took another job, and if you're Maryland, you're saying, well, no, we're second in the Big Ten. That's pretty good.
So you ever take that medicine? It's like a time release. Is it what kind of there's some sort of medicine you take, but this won't take into
the capsule. Yeah, it takes a little while.
So this I hear people saying, they couldn't handle it. I mean, Maryland against Florida. So this was a time release distraction because it was tied at half.
Yeah. Okay.
Come on, that is BS. If you're going to be distracted.
Yeah, I watched that game. That's not why Maryland lost.
Did they not get into their depth? That would make more sense.
Yeah,
no way to prove it, but they're the distractions all the time. It's a time release distraction.
No, I didn't.
It didn't happen.
I didn't buy into that.
Speaking of coaches under new athletic directors, one of the reports, 247 Sports Maryland, suggesting that Buzz Williams is vouching heavily for that job at Maryland. He's now under Trev Alberts. Trev Alberts already lost a coach to Texas. But Buzz Williams, he apparently wants the job. Maryland fans are a little back and forth. They'd rather Chris Beard. I don't know if they'll get Chris Beard, but Buzz Williams very much looking for that job.
But is Maryland a better job than Ole Miss right now?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think so.
Yeah. But can he wait a year and get a much better job?
He could.
They're going to be someone, 15 or 16 are still open, and did not make a change in the SEC.
Right.
I mean,
for the moment, yeah, maybe something. Maybe something a little better.
Big Ten, though. Big Ten's a good job.
Maybe Izzo retires next year. Who knows? I mean, that'd be a pretty good job. I'm just, just throwing that out there.
But Maryland's a good job.
Maryland is a
and
good
job. Beard would negotiate it before he got in. No, we need more than $4 million. I mean, you just lost your coach here. He would bump it up.
Williams says something publicly about Alberts.
Jeff Goodman reported he was vouching for the job, and apparently, according to Maryland, he's ready to move on, has staged a, quote, full-on campaign for the Maryland job. Doesn't mean he'll get it. His buyout is $10 million right now with A&M. He's signed through 2028.
Because Schlossnagel was meeting with people in the graveyard not to have to deal with Alberts, if you remember that bizarre story.
So maybe that's part of this
to go
as well.
To Texas. I mean, somebody not working and playing well with others.
Alberts, I don't know.
Hey, it's Trev Alberts.
Downtown Dana Brown at the law offices of O.C. Brown, your law firm for a lifetime. Both Charlie and I have used Dana's specialized team of attorneys for different reasons, for different things, for different reasons, for different stages of our lives, and did not hesitate one bit when some friends or acquaintances have some issues and need some advice as well. So, downtown Dana Brown at the law offices of O.C. Brown, your law firm for a lifetime, certainly is mine. 343-1111 and ocbrown.com.
Live at the Queen, live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at lunch with Otten Henny from the Queen Casino on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Ohio State comes into Baton Rouge and plucks away the number 2 player in the state. This is Blaine Bradford, a safety out of Catholic High. What kind of operation Moscona running over there, huh? He lets a number 2 player in the state get away right out of town to Ohio State. That one caught my attention. Pretty much everybody thought that he was going to LSU. His brother's on the team. But for the moment, he has committed himself to Ohio State. So let Matt explain that until you 3 o'clock. Moscona, what the hell's going on over there? High. Kid's supposed to come to LSU, don't you think?
You would think. There's a long time. You know how this goes. He could transfer here at some point or whatever. But
yes, it is. All right, we got basketball coming up here in about an hour. Got 4 straight games in Vegas with this crown tournament, and then we got the women's Elite 8 2-1 versus 2 matchups. Texas TCU. Haley Van Lith, see if she can duplicate that performance from Saturday afternoon. And UConn and USC, where UConn is the favorite with Juju Watkins out. 15.5. Wow. We asked Kenny White what he thought Juju Watkins was worth. I think he said she moved the line 8 points, 8.5 points. I mean, she player of the year in college basketball, so I understand that. I don't know if I'd lay. USC still got a good team even without her, but they're not going to beat UConn. I don't know if I'd lay 14
How much did they
and a half.
beat Kansas State by?
They beat Kansas State by 6.
They covered
6. So
they
don't expect that they will get there. TCU Texas should be a good game though. They got a chance there, or we end up.
Tennessee was competitive. Game was close.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah, it was close.
They were.
TCU, I was impressed. Notre Dame's good, and okay, when Notre Dame's taken over, they're up 9 now. It's kind of going their way, and shoot, because Van Lith was making a lot of. I mean, she was on fire, but they could play with Texas for sure. I thought they were weak. I mean, 8.5-point dogs to as a 2 seed versus a 3 seed,
right?
And then I mean that's a lot, and they still won. So I don't know. Might be like Alabama. The worst thing that happened to Alabama. This is hindsight. We had 2 hours to say it on Friday. I did not say it. So, but going back, looking at the form, what did I miss? Okay, it was. Man, they alerted Duke. Duke was ready from jump. They were in Alabama. You can't come out like that to start the game. I mean, after they fall down like 13-3 or 17-7, whatever it was, they didn't see even Steven for the next, till the very end. And I mean, they were. Sears they were just way ready to play, alert on how to defend, and it was impressive because that was not the same Duke defense I saw on Thursday night against Arizona. Not at all.
Thanks to the folks here at the Queen. Jimmy's home away from home.
My office.
Your office. Go over here and watch on one of the elite video screens. Chop it up any which way you want to watch all of the games. The NCAA basketball tournament, college baseball, MLB. About to start the NBA playoffs here in a couple of weeks. Come on by here at the Queen. Very, very friendly staff here. They're always going to get you what you need. We love it over here at the Queen, the DraftKings Sportsbook. Tomorrow we will be at Doe's Eat Place on Government Street at Mid-City. For Max, for Jimmy, Jordan Kitch is back in the studio. I'm Charles Hanniger saying thank you and good afternoon. Live at lunch from the Queen, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.